Hey, this is Stuff I Heard podcast.
And I'm your host, Josh Peak. Ready? Let's do it. And hello, everybody. Today happens to be... What is today? Tuesday, June 25th, 2019. I'm telling you that just in case this is archived somewhere and someone's like, I wonder what he was up to on this date, or what his opinion was on this date. I got to thinking about that today. Excuse me, I had to drink some tea. I got to thinking about that today. I worked today and I got off work and I went out and I decided to cut the grass and get that out of the way so that I could kind of enjoy some much needed time off. And I got to thinking, as I'm cutting grass, I'm listening to a podcast. Let me go ahead and tell you what it is. That way you guys can find it, because you're going to be like, what was he talking about? I don't know. What episode was that? Joe Rogan Experience. Shocker. I know you guys are like, wait, you listen to Joe Rogan? Me too. How about that? Joe Rogan Experience. Episode 1315. Bob Lazar and Jeremy Corbell. Now, Bob Lazar is a physicist who worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico and also on reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology at site called S4 near Area 51 Groom Lake operating location. Jeremy Corbell is a contemporary artist and documentary filmmaker. Watch the documentary Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers, now streaming on Netflix. That's a mouthful. That's what's written on the little app thing that Joe puts out. Now, I've heard Joe talk about this before. I've heard him talk about Bob Lazar before. And when he mentioned it before, I was like, wait, what is he talking about? I gotta watch it. So, looking through Netflix the other night, I found it. It happened to be on the now playing list. And I was like, oh, hey, this is that Bob Lazar guy. So I hit play. And Bob Lazar apparently was some scientist who worked at a research facility, and as the story goes, allegedly, he worked on extraterrestrial aircraft, like doing inspections and checking it out and making sure that, I guess, trying to see how it works and stuff like that back when there was supposedly this going on. I don't know if any of it's true. All I can go by is what the interview is about and what's going on. So in it, there's discussions about how the craft works and the things that he did to get into the facility and how it was top secret and all this other stuff. And, when you watch the Netflix special, there's a lot of talk about how people tried to discredit him and to erase his history. They went as far as to erase his birth certificate from record and went through his university and tried to remove any proof that he ever went to school there or graduated there, or remove any job listing that he ever had, because he came out public and he said, this is what I've been working on. And he talks about it in this podcast. He talks about, why he was so hesitant to say anything. He didn't want popularity. He didn't want people coming around him. He wasn't one of these people who wanted attention. He just wanted to tell people about this incredible thing that he found. Now, is it real? I have no idea. I really have no idea. But it's compelling, and it's interesting, and it's fascinating to listen to. And in the beginning of this podcast, Joe's asking questions, and Bob's a little hesitant. And then they get about, maybe 35, 45 minutes into it, and Bob loosens up, and Joe starts asking some really interesting questions that Bob wants to expand on about the aircraft and about its abilities and about the way it's built. And it's fascinating. I mean, fascinating. And in there they talk about how these things move and how he witnessed them move and how he got it on video camera and he took several people to witness it, and there's all this stuff. And you go, okay, is it real or is it fake? Because I don't know. Now, I ride with a lot of interesting people, a lot of guys with different backgrounds and histories and whatnot, and there are times where we talk about, hey, do you think there's such a thing as aliens? Do you think there's such a thing as something out there, something bigger, something, some people or something like that out there that's, maybe probing our planet or checking us out or investigating us, or do you think we've been visited? That's the question I think people want to know. Have we been visited? And Joe's like, that is one of the essential questions that everybody wants to ask. They want to know what happens when you die, and is there life out there? Now, I am of the generation of science fiction. I was born into science fiction with movies like Star Wars and Star Trek. And, in the movie Contact, they talk about it from Carl Sagan. The comment is, if there's not life out there, it seems like an awful waste of space. And there's a lot of truth to that. I've heard Neil deGrasse Tyson on podcasts before talking about the expanse of our known universe and our known galaxies, and how we can measure distance between stars, and 14 billion light years away we can measure the existence of entire solar systems. And with that many options, and with our understanding of it and our own little small perspective of being humans here on Earth, this little blue planet happened to cruise around following our sun in the Milky Way galaxy now. I mean, we are in rotation in the Milky Way galaxy. Our sun is basically a projectile going through space. And the planets, even though we want to think about them sitting still, are projectiles hurtling around this gravitational pull, which we can't create gravity. Right now, gravity is created by mass. And we want to deem that we know everything and we're the absolute and there's nothing else like us but us. Or is there? And as a kid, I grew up thinking, what if we don't know? Like, I like to ask the question, what if we don't know? What if we don't know? What if we think we know, and all this time we're pontificating and we're proclaiming and we're saying this is the absolute and this is what is real and this is what's fake, and well, all this other crap is fake and you guys don't know, man. And we have images of these beings, shadowy beings, little tiny, and we go, oh look, that's aliens, obviously. Yeah, science fiction put them out that way. They got big heads. How about that? And there is an element of science fiction that is always in truth. People tell stories, fantastical, and go, no one's going to ever believe that. And someone goes, well, I can write a fictional story about it, and I can tell my story, and then nobody questions my basis, and I have to prove anything. I can just tell what people have told me. I can translate that information. I can pass it along to others so that they know. And a thought came to me as I'm mowing grass today. What if this little bit of information that I pass along comes in handy one day? What if somebody hears this conversation and it's essentially dated? It's dated today. It's dated June 25th, 2019. And let's say, I don't know, in a year, all this stuff is proven to be real, or all this stuff is proven to be false. And someone listens to this down the road and they go, man, that Josh guy, he fell for that. He's full of crap. Or, that Josh guy, he was a skeptic. He didn't believe in anything, and all this stuff's real, man. What if? I say that because I am a YouTuber. Because I got my start, like, entertaining people and being a part of people's social media presence and whatnot with YouTube. Because of my dad. Because of being involved in, making how-to videos. And, hey, let's check this out. Let's go on vacation. And let me show you what it's like to be on this cruise ship. And let me show you what it's like to go ziplining in Hawaii. Let me show you what it's like to go in this helicopter over these volcanoes and over these waterfalls. Let me show you what it's like to get rid of a wart on your finger using duct tape. People still write me all the time and go, there's no way that works, man. But I'll make a YouTube video, like I made one about fixing my mowing faucet, and people write me with the most stupid comments. Well, this didn't help at all. Now I gotta call somebody. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the point here. I needed to know how to fix it, and I made a video. I literally have a video out there called How Do I Fix My Mowing Faucet? Because I didn't know. I was looking for answers. And then when I found the answers, I went back and I wrote in the comments, hey, I figured it out. This is what you do. I even tagged the How to Fix It video in the description. Hey, if you want to know how to fix it, click here. And people write me all the time, well, this didn't help at all. I'm like, well, no kidding. No kidding. I had a moped here once that my son used to drive, my youngest boy, Jacob. And I had videos on there about how to get it fixed and how to, it's not working correctly. Has anybody got any tips? And people write me all the time, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do... Okay, well that was years ago. And nobody looks at the timestamp. They just They just blindly give you advice. Which, listen, don't get me wrong. I understand that I'm extremely blessed in the fact that I now have over 4,000 subscribers. Wow. I can't believe I have 4,000. Over 4,000. I mean, that's just amazing. 4,000 people give a crap to tune in. Thank you, every one of you. If you're watching on the YouTube, I'm waving at you right now. Crap, I left my ring in there. I was prepping some food for dinner and I took my ring off. I left it sitting in the kitchen. I'll have to get it back. Anyway, but you know, I think about that when I go into one of these discussions on a podcast form, on a YouTube form, because the YouTube part of it is an extension of it. And I don't want to not have an audience for one and have an audience for the other, and sometimes it's important to have both. That's one of the things I learned from Joe Rogan. It's one of the things I learned from Bert Kreischer. It's one of the things I learned from Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and Christina Prusinski, or The Church of What's Happening Now with Joey Diaz. Sometimes you have a conversation that if you're listening only to the audio, at some point you go, I want to watch the video. Like, I want to see what's going on. Or if you have a guest, you're like, who's the guest? I can't picture them. You get to watch the video and you're like, oh, that's what they look like. Okay, cool, yeah. Oh, that's a good deal. You know, whatever. I'm just trying to make it accessible, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to prove that you can do it grassroots also. Like, it's a little bit of a chip on my shoulder of, you know, everybody with affluence and money going, this is how you do it. This is how you just buy this $100,000 camera and this, you rent out the space from so and so, and you know, spend about 20 grand getting you a nice table and microphone set up and blah, 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 blah. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do any of that. I proved in the last video that I made, episode 115. You can go back and watch it on YouTube. Is it 115? 116. 116. I just did that at my wife's parents' house using a small Canon camera, the the Canon Mark II, and an iPad Mini. I literally had the voice memo part, hit record, talked into it, sitting on a swing on her front porch. I was able to post the audio through the computer. I was able to put the video up using the little memory card out of the camera, put it in the computer, and boom, there you go. Doesn't cost much. I could have done it with my phone. Just use that app, voice memos, and then you move it over into the file you want to move it over into. If you've got Anchor FM, you just literally go into that share file and you hit share to Anchor. And then when you go in to select your files, it's there. And you move it over and you publish it. Ta-da! It doesn't need to be all of this equipment. Even all this equipment that you see in the video part, the microphone, the headset, the board here, about $100. That's it. Not much into it. 2 microphones. I got a 2 microphone system. Now, am I eventually going to want to get more? Well, yeah, but I wanted to get started. Like, I wanted to see if it was viable. I wanted to see if this was something I even wanted to continue. I mean, when I got started, I literally felt like I was running downhill with information just boiling over. I got to share this. I got to talk about it. I want to get involved. I want to have people on. I want to have conversations. All the stuff that I've done in the last year was just because I felt a compelling need. Now, moving forward, I have an opportunity and sort of an obligation. I have people that are actually listening and people that want to be a part of this more. And I've had groups of people say, hey, let's get together as a group and let's all be on. Okay, cool. We can do that. And then it's on me to figure out how to make it happen. Now, I'm fully capable of figuring out how to make it happen. I just got to do it. So, that's coming forward. I got to do something different in this room, by the way. I'm looking at the video and I can see like there's a door behind me, and it's always something. I got to do something different. Anyway, I'm happy with the table. I'm happy with the chairs. I went to Georgia this weekend. I got some more wood, so I'm going to be building some more projects. I literally wanted to introduce myself and say, welcome, listeners to the Cedar Slab Studios. My name is Josh, just to kind of comment on the Cedar Slab table I got going on here. But yeah, so anyway, let's talk about a few things I've watched, because I've watched some things too. I listen to more podcasts, by the way. Oh, let's just do a quick run through, because I'm already at 15 minutes. I got the ability, I was awarded the ability to listen to Joe Rogan interview Charlemagne the God from The Breakfast Club and Andrew Schultz. The Breakfast Club is a fun syndicated radio show. Andrew Schultz has been on Guy Code. They have a podcast called Brilliant Idiots, and Charlemagne is interesting. Charlemagne's actually from Monk's Corner, South Carolina, and this is a fun podcast to listen to. It's episode 13, 14. It's a fun episode to listen to. They get silly, and they laugh so hard. It gets me laughing hard listening to it. It was a ton of fun. I also finished listening to episode 13, 12 with Miss Pat. Miss Pat is a comedian. She has her own podcast now called The Pat Down. It is worth checking out. She is a hilarious comedian. She's got some amazing stories. It's amazing the stuff that she's lived through. And she talks about that openly on Joe's podcast. I highly recommend checking out Miss Pat, episode 13, 12. What else? Let me back out of that app, or out of that discussion group. I listened to Dr. Drew's After Dark, interview Ryan Sickler, episode 18. That was pretty good. And then episode 19 with Joe List. Both of them pretty good. I've heard those guys before on other podcasts. They don't really reveal anything too amazing, but the funny thing is that the second half of the show they take in calls or voicemails or whatever, and they answer voicemails together, and there's always comedy involved in that. That's pretty good. Listen to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. This is Inside of You, Michael Rosenbaum. Episode 63, Fortune Feimster. That's pretty good. She's been on all kinds of things. As soon as you hear her voice, you're going to go, oh, yeah, her. I've seen her stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Since I was on the trip with my wife, we listened to a few of Wife of the Parties, Leanne Kreischer. We listened to Christina Pazynski, episode 71, which I'd heard that before. We just listened to it again. And then we listened to episode 73, Laser Genesis. And Laser Genesis is apparently some kind of laser treatment for your face that plumps up your face and removes some spots and stuff like that, but it only lasts for a few days, and you're supposed to go back and get more treatments. It sounds like it works a little, but it also sounds kind of like a scam, like you need to come back, and oh yeah, you need to come back all the time, kind of deal. But yeah. Bert Kreischer, The Birdcast, episode 347 with Steve Byrne, and episode 348, Greg Fitzsimmons. Both those guys are great. Both of them are funny. Both interviews are great. Good times. Good times. So anyway, let's talk about stuff I've watched. Okay? So I talked about watching the Bob Lazar show, the Area 51 Close Encounters space flying saucer deal. I also finished watching House of Cards. Now, I've been hypercritical of House of Cards, talking about, how disappointed I was in the show ever since Kevin Spacey left, and how the second half of the season, towards sort of like episode 6 or so, it really picks up and it gets interesting, and you're like, oh, here we go, now we're getting into it, now some cool stuff's happening. They just failed. I mean, granted, they couldn't foresee Kevin Spacey leaving, which I've said before, and it's hard to write him out of the show and then continue it on a new path. And they seem to have just brought in a bunch of characters to kind of, carry on the storyline, and probably a lot of characters left, it just wasn't good. It wasn't good. Spoiler alert, they killed Doug Stamper, the Madam President kills Doug Stamper in the White House. He goes to kill her. She's pregnant, supposedly with Frank's baby, even though they didn't sleep together that time. I think it actually belongs to that writer dude, and that would eventually have come out in the next season if they'd have made one. But he goes to kill her, and she in turn kills him, and it's interesting. That part's interesting. And as they're doing the murder scene, Doug reveals that he actually killed Frank. They wrote that in the show that Frank died. people were supposedly believing that maybe she did it or maybe somebody else did it, and she was open about the fact that I don't know who killed him, but somebody killed him. Turns out it was Doug. So, interesting. But a big letdown. Like, it just let me down. It let a lot of people down, which I guess is why they canceled the thing. It wasn't worth renewing. So, anyway, moving on. There's a lot of shows I want to watch that's coming up. The Rain, or Rain, Season 2 is out. Dark, Season 2 is out. Stranger Things, Season 3 is getting ready to come out. Ooh la la. Riverdale, Season 3 is out. I hear people say that it's really, really weird. There's a new show with Gabriel Iglesias called Mr. Iglesias. He's supposed to be like a teacher, a history teacher. That looks fascinating. I want to watch that. Toy Story 4 is at the movie theater. I want to go watch that. God, that looks exciting. There's all kinds of good stuff out there. I listened to a Marvel podcast with my wife. I forget the name of it, but they were talking about how some of the live-action movies that they've made have really not panned out. The Mary Poppins apparently didn't do real great. Dumbo didn't do real great. What's the one that just came out? I know The Lion King's getting ready to come out. What's the one they just did? Oh, Aladdin. Apparently Aladdin didn't do super. I mean, they're overloading people with stuff. I get the fact that you're trying to turn a profit and you're posting one of the biggest profitable years that you've ever had as a company, Disney, with I think they said $9 billion in profits this year. The problem with that is you look at every year afterwards and you go, okay, well, where's our another $9 billion growth year? How come you're not doing that anymore? That's one of the things about catching lightning in a bottle. People expect you to do it all the time. It's with anything. Heck, my last name, Peak. Peak actually comes from a profession. Years ago, my ancestors were known for making arrows and spears. Peaks. And you think about it. Let's say that you've got your little wood shop and you can make some really decent spears. And you can crank out, I don't know, maybe 20 really good spears in a day. Maybe. I'm just throwing that number out there, just a vague number. You throw out, 20 good spears in a day, and that's really working hard all day. You get 20 really good spears. I mean, you're known for your spears. I mean, so much so that they call you Mr. Peak. Hey, we're going to go see Mr. Peak to get us some fine arrows and spears. He makes the best spears. We're going to see him right now. So they go and they get spears. 20 a day. But 20 a day ain't going to cut it. Because there's a dude right down the road, he's making 30 a day. I mean, they may not be as good, but he's doing 30 a day, man. We need those extra 10 spears because we got war going on, man. We need those extra. So Mr. Peak's like, I got to incorporate here. I got to get some more people involved. So he starts cranking out, 15, 16 kids. He's like, come on, kids, we got to be making spears. Come on. Next thing you know, they're all cranking out 10 to 20 to 30 a day. And it doesn't matter what you do. Everybody wants you to do more. That's with the world. Bob Lazar talks about that a little bit, him and Joe. They talk about the fact that capitalism and greed is a human need, a human desire. And if we one day can get to the point where we no longer look towards material things to satisfy us, then maybe we can achieve greatness. Maybe we can then achieve the things that we dream of. But until then, we're just competing to try and outdo each other, to try and sell more stuff, to sell better stuff. We're trying to become a better version financially so we can buy more stuff, to tell other people we can afford more stuff, because obviously we're a success. We don't want to be like those people down the road making 30 spears a day forever. We can make more. We can afford a nice house and maybe a Tesla. You don't think they drove Teslas back then? Come on, man. That's right, I'm drinking on the podcast. Good old sweet tea. I'm fooling myself a little bit. It's not the sweet tea I'm used to know. It's a half sweet tea. It's sweet tea minus all the extra sugar. But it's healthier. So I'm going with it. So you go with it and just think to yourself, oh, he's getting to enjoy himself. Listen to him. He's having a good conversation. He's smiling on camera, wearing his Keep Calm Shop On shirt and drinking some sweet tea. He must be just so happy. Oh my goodness gracious. And that's, yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. You know, the conversation that Joe had with Charlemagne the God, he talks about the fact that he goes through depression once in a while and he seeks therapy, and he talks about how if you're in that situation, go talk to somebody, go get some help. I talk to you guys. For whatever that matters. I mean, I don't know who out there is listening and is like, oh yeah, great man, thanks. What I want people to feel comfortable. I want people to understand that you're not alone and that it's okay to not be okay, and you can seek help. You can talk to people. You can reach out. You can say, hey, listen, I'm not doing good either. I kind of want to talk about it. That's cool, man. Have that conversation. Force that conversation if you have to. There's nothing wrong with it. So, anywho. If you guys have any kind of like super secret prayer circle, how about include our family on that list? We got a few family members going through some stuff right now, and just kind of hoping for the best here. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going through similar stuff, but just know that you're not alone. Okay? I don't mean like Bob Lazar, you're not alone, even though that's probably true, you know. And by the way, why would aliens come here as people anyway? We're so presumptuous to think that anything would look like us and mimic us in some kind of way, just because if we have our own circumstances and our own linear line of thinking, we think that everything's supposed to be like us. If you looked at our planet at 75% water, why would you think that you need to go investigate the land first? Unless you were a land-based animal or being or whatever. Even then, why would you even show up? If we found a planet that had life on it, would we walk up, would we fly our little vehicles over and be like, hey y'all, we're here? No. We'd send in some kind of surveillance ability, some kind of drone. I've talked about this before. I would have some kind of, synthetic thing that could go investigate it. Now, what about insects? What if there are certain insects that aren't really just insects? What if they're actually surveillance thing? Like roaches. Roaches are attracted to electricity. You can cut their head off and they're still alive for 2 weeks. There's something going on there. I bet they're like alien drones. They're collecting information. They come and hang out in the corners when you're not paying attention, and they're like, look, he's watching Netflix again. I better report it to our leader. I'm just saying, we don't know everything. Nor do I want to know everything. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't want to know everything. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Alright, so that's it. I'm out of here. I've got an extended vacation time. I'm going Wednesday to Wednesday, baby. Some time off. I get to visit with some friends I hadn't seen in a while, and we're going to relax, and we are going to record some podcasts. Maybe more than one. So be listening out for that. We probably get really silly. I'm going to try and get them to talk about aliens and see what they think. It always creates fun conversation, right? Isn't that what normal people talk about? I mean, I'm asking for a friend. Anyway, that's it. You guys take care. And remember to cue the cow. Moo.
Bye, y'all.